Mr. Mohanty, my colleague, Mr. Thakur, all the distinguished participants, tour operators, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't expect anything from me, the best time to call me is at this time. Because I'm literally, my mind is blank. So the only thing that I can do, therefore, at this point in time is to listen to you, and which is what I tried to spend in the last half an hour, very keenly tried to absorb much of what many of you have been saying very, very passionately, and I can understand, and I can, in a way, I can express empathy with much of what you have said. And also, while sitting here, I was trying to think whether at any point in time, and I've spent a pretty long period in civil service, literally 34 years, and I was wondering which are the areas I haven't worked. And it so happens that tourism is one area I have never done any work. So literally I have very little idea about how to promote tourism, and therefore to expect me to articulate ideas about how to take Odisha tourism forward, perhaps that's not something that I can do, that's not my core competence. But what I can do is to get a sense of what you have been saying. And therefore, it makes economic sense to invest, make public investment in tourism. And particularly if the area is, if the tourism destination is underdeveloped, it has to be led by the state. It has to be led by through public investment, and that goes without spending. Therefore, the point that many of you have made about underspending in tourism is a very, very valid criticism, and I, as a former finance secretary, I may be held guilty, but I can see the economic logic in that, certainly. And if somebody came, we are skeptical in providing budgets because we don't get an adequate enough justification for it. But if good projects come, we would certainly look at it more optimistically. See, I know sometime back, last year, Mr. Mohanty, I was still Additional Chief Secretary of Finance, and the Department of Tourism was trying to bring forth a new tourism policy. And we had some views on that, as finance department anywhere else. We had some views on that, and finally, in order to resolve these issues, I think the meeting was convened. And in that meeting, I was assured that once we agree to the tourism policy, everything will move forward. And I unhesitatingly, after that, I said, okay, let's clear the policy, let's see what happens. What is something that needs to be underscored is, we as civil servants are extremely good at crafting policies, but possibly we are not equally, not all of us, some of us are, not all of us are very competent in implementing policies. I think what we really need today, and I say this with all seriousness, not only with respect to tourism policy or industry, no, any policy. Any policy you can, we are very good in crafting policies, and today it's easier with the IT, we can do a cut and paste and get the best of policies. But the best of policies are not good enough, because unless we have a very robust, very proactive, and very effective implementation structure, it doesn't work. And therefore, you can have the best of policy, but things won't happen on the ground. And therefore, I honestly and very sincerely believe that the most important thing to do is, whatever policy, it's good, it may not be as good as what Chhattisgarh has, it may not be as good as Kerala has, but whatever, in our wisdom, in our limited wisdom, we have crafted a policy taking inputs from all of you. Let's get going. Unless projects are grounded, unless different projects, and it has, at that point of time, I think when this policy was crafted, we looked at the policies of different states, and everybody told me that this is a very good policy, we should agree, and we agreed. Now, unless we allow this policy to go forward, unless we clear projects, unless we give support to the entrepreneurs for implementation, things really don't happen. Therefore, my honest, and I take this as my job also, and as a Chief Secretary, even if I may not have worked in tourism, certainly what I would like to do in the next, and I haven't had time to look at tourism so far, but I certainly look at the implementation, the pace and quality of implementation of tourism policy. That's the first thing I would like to say. The second thing is that we need to be passionate about tourism. You know, things don't happen if we don't have passion for tourism. Now, I am not the right person, but I certainly we should identify people who have passion for tourism, will take it forward. Look at any area of Odisha, of the country where tourism has come, moved forward. There have been, behind every successful destination, you would see somebody who has demonstrated passion for developing the destination, for marketing it, for branding it. So we need now in the tourism sector, both in the private and in the public sector, people who are absolutely passionate about it. And unless we show passion, I think development doesn't take place at the pace that we want or in the manner that we want. The third thing, and you very rightly mentioned about the adequacy of budget provision for tourism, and I can assure you, although I am not the finance secretary can override chief secretary at times, but having worked there, I can assure you that whatever amount of budget you want for tourism proportion, I would be supportive of that. I can support that. I'm not this thing. I also honestly and very earnestly believe that tourism is all about creating a perception about what the potential that you have. You know, Mr. Thakur has worked in Haryana tourism. He knows about it, and we have only heard what is it that Haryana has. Nothing practically compared to no natural beauty, no major your palaces and things like that, no exotic locations. Yet there was somebody who had creative ideas about transforming Haryana into a major tourist destination. Of course, they have a natural advantage in being next to Delhi. That's a natural advantage. But somebody triggered some developments which has transformed Haryana tourism. So I think tourism is, to a large extent, as I understand it, is about creating a brand, promoting that brand, and selling that brand. I think we need to understand that, and we need to see spending on tourism publicity and tourism branding as an investment. And unless we do that, I don't think any amount of, we can have the best of beaches, we can have the best of, ecotourism research we can have, but we'll get to know about it. So we have not been doing that, and I think we need to not only provide money for this thing, we have to create that thing. Sometime back, I think we did try this Odisha being the soul of India and all. Somehow it didn't catch on, but we need to really engage in some serious thinking about branding and selling Odisha tourism as a major this thing. Until that, people really they're looking. Otherwise, how would they look? They have competing choices. Why would they come to Odisha? So that's the third point that I would like to make. The fourth point is about, very rightly you have made about the restrictions we have imposed on visiting different places. On tribal tourism, I am a little conservative. Let me very frankly and very candidly say that I am a little conservative. We need to be very careful about what. But what I would expect from you, self-regulation is the best regulation. No regulation is better implemented than what is crafted through your voluntary collaboration. So if as tour operators, and you know about the international best practices, you know about the domestic best practices, you come forward with a set of self-regulation about how should we conduct tourism in the tribal areas, we'd be very happy to revisit that. I mean, believe me, we are not dogmatic about this thing. We are not open to, we also know people have done, they go for very genuine tourism research, but we need to be very careful about it because it can bring a lot of discomfort to the government if something goes wrong. So my request to you, and this is something that I would like to post to the House. Please work out a draft of do's and don'ts about how we should conduct tourism in the more remote areas, and we will be happy to revisit that issue. On the forest, certainly I think some valid question was asked. Why is it that people can visit the forest of Chhattisgarh more freely than the forest of Odisha? Yes, my request to my friends in the Forest Department of Odisha is to look at what facilities tourism is allowed in the forest of Chhattisgarh. Is something that we need to rework. We should do that, and not again be hold to a rigid position. I think the natural beauty of our forest is immense. We should not deny the people from all parts of the world to come and, or all parts of the country to come and have a glimpse of what kind of beauty. And believe me, I'm not much of a tourist either. I've not really worked in this thing. I'm not much of a tourist. But last winter, I had the privilege of visiting one eco-tourist resort in near which Forest Department has very well developed very well in near Hirakud Island, Hirakud Reservoir. I don't know whether some of you have visited. I would commend this to all of you. This is this Debrigarh sanctuary. I just visited that for 1 hour, and what a magnificent sight I say. The beauty, the sheer natural beauty of that is wonderful. On the one side, you see this vast expanse of the Hirakud Reservoir, and on the other hand, absolutely dense, good forest. And I'm told, I didn't stay that long, but in the evening you are bound to see wildlife. They have some cottages, which is managed by local youths. And this is a very good model of developing ecotourism. I would strongly recommend that we should promote this kind of ventures where the local community benefit, it is well connected. Only thing that my regret is not well advertised. So we need to sell that destination. That's what I'd call about this thing. The more and more destinations we bring to the public domain, market, tour operators, we take them. I think it will be advisable for the forest department or whoever is looking after ecotourism to take a group of tour operators and spend some time, because they are the people who are going to get business. And let's not be sort of saying that no, we should not, this business of imposing a restriction on tourism, except where it is absolutely warranted by law, would not be justifiable. We need to be a little more open about what we have been doing so far. Now, finally, about what plans the government has this thing. Government, I think, has, Mr. Thakurian would have this thing. We had planned a few mega tourism projects and these things. Somehow they are in the limbo. We need to bring those back to the table and take them forward. I think again I said, we need a more energetic and more passionate tourism promotion effort from the government, and that's something that I would like to say very, very categorically. And you are there to take this, to bring people, this thing. Tourism infrastructure needs a lot of improvement. I think Mr. Mohanty made that point very well. We need to promote more hotels. And finally, I think we need to say, we should recognize that tourism promotion is not only should not be limited to OTDC, promoting OTDC alone. We need to see that private sector can do more for our tourism than only this thing. We should, take private sector as a partner in this venture, not really say that look at only OTDC and things like that. OTDC has a legitimate space, and OTDC should do what it can do best. Now, on the issue, I think any other issue, on the issue of, you mentioned about air traffic. Yes, bilaterals and the seat sharing and all that is, you'd be very happy to know that I have already written a letter to the Civil Aviation Secretary. Next time, this time when I went to Delhi to have a meeting with the airlines, he wasn't there, he had gone abroad. So next time I visit, I certainly spend some time with him and try and get his consent, and I have been assured that they would be very supportive. All in all, I think all I can say at the end of this thing, I know I'm, holding you back from your dinner engagement, but all I can say is that this Odisha tourism potential, I've been hearing since the day I joined. And we think it's time, and before I quit, I would like to see some part of that potential exploited very well. Thank you very much.